as well. So it's Psalms 18:2, and it says, "The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my rock where I seek started." Okay, here we go. Ready? I am Jamie. I have been with the center for 10 years in January. I have been the director for 3 years in November. And so part of why I love this job is because I get to come around and worship with just different communities. And it really blesses my heart because it gives me a little taste of what heaven is going to be like. And it's really a sweet thing. I always like to start with why I continue to do what I do. And my life verse is John 10:10. And it states that the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But I, Jesus, have come so that they might have life. But not just life, but abundant life. And so that's what keeps me up every day, keeps me going. And then next, it's my family who you guys have met. I need to update the pictures because I'm pretty sure they're taller than that now. And we just love to do adventures together, and I like to be able to share a little piece of why I do what I do. So our why at the Pregnancy Center, in the last 3 years, we really made sure that we went back to our foundation, and we were started, and we exist to educate and support and encourage our clients who are facing or considering an abortion. And so we really went back as to why does the Pregnancy Center exist and making sure that we were building on that foundation. And so the best way I like to tell people about our services is to use a client story. And again, this is a client that was my personal client before I was an interim director position. And she was my personal client. And I feel like God brought her and gave her to me to remind myself again when times get tough as to why I do what I do. And so I want you to see as the Pregnancy Center, our pillars are gospel, sanctity, education, and support, and how these weave in and out of her story. And as we go through her story as well, you'll see all the different services that we provide. She is our most well-rounded client that has used a lot of our services. And we'll call her Amber for the sake of privacy. So the reality is, Amber came to us um, pregnant, scared, zero support, didn't want to be pregnant, didn't know who the father was. She didn't have any support systems. Her mom had died when she was 13. Her dad had died a year ago, a year before this. Her husband that she had been married to for 10 years and had never gotten pregnant in that time, had recently moved to a different state about 6 months before this. And she was super lonely. She didn't have a church community, and she found companionship with a couple of different men in the community. And one of those interactions ended in an unplanned pregnancy. And so she was a client who walked into our doors um, visibly upset, her shoulders shaking, weeping, and we didn't really know at the time what she was there for. We could take a guess, but the reality is she was there because she didn't want to be pregnant, and so that is the question that they come in asking. So again, we still have our free pregnancy tests, and they sit with one of our advocates who are lay people trained in helping making decisions around this topic. So that happened to be me that day. And so I got to sit with Amber for about an hour and a half, and we talked about everything. We talked about the passing of her mom. We talked about the passing of her dad, some charges that she had on her because of her dad's passing. She also talked about how lonely she was and how she knew she had made a mistake and didn't know how she was going to recover from this. And so that was a really dark hour and a half. But again, we're trained to just sit with them. We are not trained to make them make a decision. We are trained to ask really good questions and when we ask the questions, we frame it back to them, their statements, so they can start to hear themselves think. When they're in the emotional abyss of life, they're not making solid decisions. And so we act as that frontal decision making process in having good conversation. So at the end of that, she still was undecided. Well, we were able to offer an ultrasound through a local doctor here in town. He actually goes to this church, or did go to this church. And so we walked with her, and this was our plan of action going out of that meeting. We were going to get her an ultrasound so that she could see. I did give her a Bible, and we talked about Jesus. She was really angry at the Lord for taking her mom at such a young age. And then we just educated her, and we just give her as much information as we possibly could to allow her to make the best possible decision for her. And that's what we always tell our clients is we just want to give you the information so that you are making the best possible decision for your and your baby's life. So we did go get an ultrasound, and she decided about a week after the ultrasound that it was an abortion was not for her, because we had talked about the trauma she already had, and we read some of the post-abortion syndrome symptoms, and she also felt, oh, yeah, I already have trauma, and this is just going to compile onto that trauma. And I already feel like I'm sinking and not able to swim. Is this what does me in? And those were her words, right? So we didn't want to compile any more trauma onto her. So we started speaking the truth about adoption. A lot of times we feel like adoption is this scary thing that we used to do a long time ago that maybe we didn't tell the full truth to the adoptee. And so there were a lot of scary stories out of that. Well, modern day adoption is very different. And so we sat with her, and we work with a couple of Christian adoption agencies. And so we brought them in to just answer some questions, right? To myth bust is what we call it. And let her know that she could pick a family if she wanted, that she didn't necessarily have to just relinquish rights and never know what happened to her child. So she did choose the adoption route for about 10 weeks. My slides are mixed up. I apologize. Because if she would have chosen abortion, we have what's called Free Me to Live. And I put an open door on here is because at the pregnancy center, we coach to never shut the door on our client. So we know in that moment, if she chooses to make a decision for abortion, we just know that God hasn't opened her eyes and her heart yet. And we want to honor her still. And so what we say is like, hey, in 5 months, a year, 5 years, 25 years, like we're still here, and we want to walk with you in that post-abortion recovery. And you have someone in your church who would like to just share for a minute about what being free to live looks like. Her name is Christina, and I have known her since I was a little girl. I actually don't even know how old I was when I met her because that's just how long ago I had met her. So Christina is going to come share just a couple minutes of her story and what it means to be free to live.
Sorry, brought the baby. Mommy needs a break, and I need cuddles. So essentially, I went over. This all started with my choice that I'd made. I had not talked to Jamie previously. Had I done that, this may have been my story. But my story ended a little differently. I went over for an MLM pickup, picking something up that she was selling, and we started talking about both of our situations, essentially. And I wasn't okay. And she knew that, and she could see it. And so she didn't even have to dive into specific scripture or anything. She just started belting out things. Um, she gave me the ability to bring life to the child's life that I took, um, and be able to give me peace that, that Jesus will forgive me, and that in doing so, the best thing to do is to first start with a name, which is huge. Um, sorry. And previously, my little daughter, who's my oldest now, had what I consider an imaginary friend. She said that she used to play with her sister, but she was the only child. And so I decided that it would be a female, and her name was Christina Renee. And that's just that's who she is. That's who she'll always be. And one day I'll meet her, and I can't wait. And there is life after this. If that's the choice that has been made, I wasn't brought up in a home that was like this. We didn't have Christian upbringing as solidly as we should have. And while we may want to live with regret, it weighs you down, and your soul can't rise. And so you need to move past the regret, and you need to move past it to healing. And that's where she helped me move. And so I just wanted to share that little bit because this is pretty much her first year, I think, that she was with the pregnancy center that she helped me. So if she was able to do that within her first year, I can only imagine what mountains she's moved since. So give it up for Jamie.
So I don't get that at every church, but um, I am super thankful that she's brave enough to share because that's really what it takes is for women who have been in this position to share their story. And that's what she said. The weight of regret will hold you down. And that's why we've chosen to call our post abortion recovery Free Me to Live, because we want you to live an abundant life. And that's important. So, again, we're going to go back to talk about adoption. And unfortunately, studies show that adoption for most women in that decision process is worse than abortion. They think it's death of themselves and death of their child, and so it's kind of a taboo word. And so again, when I say like, hey, can we just myth bust? Let's just have conversation around adoption. My own story is of adoption, and I can tell you that it's very sweet because Jesus literally mends your family together. So after about 10 weeks of being on the adoption track, again, I told you she was going through all her options. We talked, and she took our parenting class, and she knew that she wasn't going to uh, parent her child, but she still wanted the information. Again, one of our pillars is education, and we felt that that was important. And we had a plan. Instead of her spending $250 on her child, she could spend $250 for herself while she was taking that for like postpartum recovery, things that would help her through her journey of adoption. So she took about 7 or 8 weeks before she made a plan for life and parenting. And so then she started using our Earn While You Learn program as a totally different uh, source. She actually wanted to know so she could parent. She used our boutique, which, if you guys have ever made any kind of donation or come and have seen our boutique, it looks like a store and it's super cute. But then a local church, about the same size as your church here, threw a baby shower for her. They wiped her entire wish list off, and they showed up just like her parents would have, I assume. And they brought her diapers for an entire year. So she actually didn't even need the pregnancy center support after all of that, which really is our goal. So just to talk about the donations, this is what it looks like for churches to show up. Diapers, formula, clothing. This is a very realistic way to stand in the gap for children. So weaving out of Amber's story for a minute, our 2025 goals were to become medical and have a men's ministry. So I want to be here and be, you guys are one of the first to know that we are medical now. And I brought my party hat because I'm celebrating. Yes, thank you. It has been a long 7 years, but we would like to introduce you to Haven Health. We will remain the pregnancy center, but we are adding Haven Health next door. We rented the space and hired a nurse. So if you ever come in, you can meet Carrie Martin. We'll be able to do ultrasound, have medical staff, still continue to share the gospel just in a new way. The space is literally right next door to the pregnancy center. And so we don't have to go far. And it will be completely dedicated to men and women who are trying to make the choice for life. In 2025, we have served already 371 new clients. That equals 2,078 appointments. We average about 207 pregnancy tests. That's about 3 per week. And that's run on about 10,000 hours of volunteer. We are expected going medical to double those numbers. So these are year-to-date numbers. So next year at this time, we're expecting to be at about 425. And so you can imagine the weight of all of those decisions on us. So we ask you to continue to pray. I'm going to go back one. Really quick, just to wrap up Amber's story. Like I said, she really didn't even need the pregnancy center anymore. And that truly is our goal, right? Is to equip them, support them, educate them, share the gospel with them in a way that they age out and that they don't need us. She did come back and tell us update on her life. We had a group of church ladies help provide daycare while she went to school to get a new career. So I'm happy to say she has a career now. She just moved to be closer to the family and support that she does have with her new career. And her baby is healthy and growing. And she is so thankful and so excited to be able to say that the pregnancy center helped and walked her through all of that. I don't know that she's made a complete confession of Christ yet, but I do know that there were a lot of seeds planted in the 2 years that she was with us. And so we're just praying that someone harvests those. The ways that you can get involved, we need board members. We've got 2 open seats and a couple becoming vacant at the end of this year. And here are a few ways. I talked about some of them, but then I have Randy, who is my father. And I tell people all the time, they're like, well, what can I do? I'm like, I will literally use whatever the gift God has given you. And his gift is speaking. And so he is our MC this year at our gala. But he's also going to share with you a little bit about how you can get involved as well. So if you'd like to come up. Do you want this one?
Good morning. Thank you very much for having us today, guys. She says my gift is speaking. It really isn't. What my gift is, I feel like, is introducing people to their purpose in ministry, creating opportunity for people in ministry. And with that being said, I have a granddaughter that's here, and she has been adopted, and she's been an amazing asset to our family. And so here in a minute, I'm going to introduce her to you. But our family, when you're walking towards home like we all are, we are the tip of the spear. A lot of things come against us. We woke up to some very intense spiritual warfare just this morning. We've had pretty intense spiritual warfare for years, but today was tough. So when I hear 2 angels up here singing, it pierces my heart and softens it at the same time. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just had to send my wife back to the back. I said, don't skip the Kleenex, get a paper towel. I need something bigger than a Kleenex. Because the first song just, it hit me that good. So I know where I'm supposed to be. I know last weekend, my granddaughter's been going through some really tough things. Just since school started, it's been rough. And for those of you that are going to school, especially young ladies, the bullying can be brutal. The online stuff that's out there is just chewing up our girls and hurting them bad, along with our boys. They're getting our boys through inappropriate photos and pictures and 2 clicks away from hell. And I'm mostly working with young men, and I mean quite a few of them. The ministry I'm working in very close to right now, we've lost 2 young men to suicide in the last, it was 1 year and 2 weeks apart, and they were 12 and 13. Um, and I was asked to take another role in this leadership in this ministry, and it just didn't launch. And it just didn't launch. I'm like, okay, God, why? Why is this not working? And then my granddaughter hit this hard spot in her life, and my wife was going to a John Eldridge camp, Stacy Eldridge camp last weekend for 4 days, and I said, sweetie, this is my granddaughter, because I call all the girls in my life that are my family, sweetie. So I'll identify. I said, Jade, let's go camping for 4 days. So, sweetie, why don't you come up here? And we're going to introduce you to her ministry and what she is about and what she's done. And we want you guys to know that the pregnancy center is in good hands. And that's as we close this up here in the next few minutes, you're going to see, just like your church, when you see young people taking ownership of your church, you are in a good spot. When you have 21-year-old men coming in here and listening and seeking the kingdom of God, you are in a good spot. Please keep that up. This whole thing in the past few weeks of Charlie Kirk was mentioned here. Um, her brother has asked for a sponsor and to begin a turning point at his school. Her father, yeah, that's awesome. Her father has a successful business and he's very busy in ministry and very committed to that. Mom is here leading at the pregnancy center and doing a great job. The pregnancy center is financially doing very well. The leadership is growing. The gala, the second gala of its history is coming up in the next week. And so we see this right now as an opportunity for me to introduce you to her now, because she's going to be speaking at the gala also. And we're going to introduce her ministry there. But one of the things we found out on this 4-day journey, seeking God, just the two of us, was that she doesn't feel like she has her purpose or her place in the ministry. Yet she does. She just hasn't identified it and can articulate it completely. So in those 4 days, that's one of the things we began to work on, is what's your purpose in your ministry. So let's just start out with some softball questions. Where did we go?
We went to Trappers Lake and just to like soul search and just to figure things out.
I'm going to grab this one. This one, why? Yes, they're both going now. So we went to Trappers Lake to do some soul searching. And what was one of the most important aspects that we had to do in that soul searching?
Just to search God and make sure we're listening to Him.
What was the thing we worked on the first night? Before we can find our purpose, we have to find what in our hearts.
Forgiveness.
Yeah, we did a lot of deep thinking on forgiveness. Yeah. Because as you can see, this kind of beautiful hair doesn't run in my family, at least not in my side. So we started out identifying who do we need to forgive in life to find our purpose. And we came up with quite a few. And the first evening at the campfire, what started pouring out of us?
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. How was that forgiveness reflected?
Through God.
And through what else?
And through myself.
And
yeah.
Through our hearts.
Mm-hmm. And our minds. Yeah.
And tears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lots of tears. What do we call tears? That's our spirit blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in the men's camp, what we teach the guys, it's okay to have tears. Because when we're with these young men and they're trying, and it's a young men's camp, and we're focused on 12 to 18-year-old young men. And this, instead of telling them, hey, you're crying or these tears, we call it spirit blood. Because when our spirits hurt and our spirits bleed, it's reflected through here, through our tears. And that's the place where we feel the most, when we feel broken, we can humbly come before God, and He loves to rescue. And when we teach these guys that He will rescue us in those darkest days, in those darkest moments, in those hardest times, and that's where our restoration begins. So we began forgiving and loss, but let's go back to what's your bio mother's real name?
Lindsay.
Lindsay, and what do you really know about her?
I don't know a whole lot. I was adopted at 3, I
You
believe.
were adopted at 3, but when were you taken out of the home?
About 18 months.
About 18
Yeah.
months?
8 months.
8 months, yeah, 8 months. We were introduced to you at about 18 months. Do you know why you were taken out of the home?
I think it was just because it was in a unhealthy environment.
Well, of course it was that, sweetie, but why specifically? Why were you taken out of the home? Because Jackson had a
Like
failure to leave.
a failure to thrive. Yeah.
So his brother sitting over there was taken out of the home on a Friday because they didn't know if he would live till Monday. And at that point, there had been enough abuse in the family that we were told we wouldn't know if he had learning disabilities, mental disabilities. We didn't know what kind of challenges he would have because of lack of nutrition, because of medications. But it's like, all right, we got introduced to these guys. We're hanging out with them. We're having fun with them. When we first met him, she would love on you and could really look after you and just want to spend time with you. Him, on the other hand, he would go and hide behind the curtains, especially when men were in the room. He would constantly hide behind. Now, on the other hand, this has all changed. I mean, he'd be up here right now too. He has no problem coming up and talking in front of everybody and sharing his story. In fact, just real quickly, we were at one of our young men's camps, and I asked all the men to pick out a story that would describe where they were at in life right now, how life had treated them, how hard it was. And he came up and he said his word was joy. And it threw the whole room off. There were probably 65, 70 of us in the room, and we couldn't go, why is your word joy? Because a lot of us knew his story. His story was joy because his mom didn't choose.
She didn't choose abortion.
That's correct. So he told a group of men, 65 men, that his life was joy because from this point on, his life he would be able to find joy. And I will tell you that right now that in that guy, it says that we are to die to self. In those moments, in those cribs, in those days, he had died to self. Failure to thrive is died to self in a sense. So he carries, that's almost a gift. It's like a cancer survivor. They see life a different way once they've passed the cancer mark and they have freedom on the other side. But sweetie, back to your story. So you're taken out of the home at about 8 months. You lived with some like foster temporary grandparents who were friends of the family for about a year, and then you were introduced to us, and then we worked through that process. We were able to bring her. They were able to finalize adoption at the age of 3. And then at the age of 8, what significant happened?
That's where my biological mother died.
Yes. And that was a very tough time for us because they really had plans of meeting their biological mom at some place in life, and that didn't happen. But it also brought closure in some senses. And so we moved on from that. Mom starts working at the pregnancy center. And what was one of the roles you found yourself attracted to?
At first, I did some things in the boutique, just like hanging up clothes and stuff. But now I'm in the diaper room and just putting together like little bags that have just diapers and wipes just to help out.
Mm-hmm. So if you guys go down there to the pregnancy center and see this diaper room, it's a room that I would say is about from here, this big here, and it's stocked with thousands of diapers. but they're all packaged and they're in different sizes, right? And so you make sure that as those shipments come in, they get placed on the shelf. What size diaper would you say is the most you need?
Size 5.
Okay, now, so this is the future. Isn't it wonderful that a 14-year-old knows what the pregnancy center needs from a diaper standpoint, an inventory standpoint? Now, a size 5 would fit a baby that is.
I'm not sure. It really depends on the baby, but I think
some of them get big and some of them get small. But we're thinking these are babies that are about a year to about 14, 15 months old. So in my mind, I'm thinking, because I learned a lot about this last weekend interviewing their this camping trip, trying to find out, okay, what's your purpose? So how would a young girl, 14 years old, know that a pregnancy center needs diapers for 1-year-olds, 1 to 14-month-old, 1 to 16-month-old babies? What a gift to have that. If she's dialed in and she's working that, and to know that our pregnancy center is meeting the needs of babies that are 1-year-old, because it's not just about the pregnancy, it's about the newborn, it's about the toddler, it's about this little child that we're committed to bringing forward. So with that, tell me what it was like when you came back after you started school and saw the pregnancy center. Somebody started stalking and doing the job.
um,
Hold on just one second. See, this plays into going to school and boy issues and girl issues and how tough and the things they can say and do. And then all of a sudden you find out
well, it was actually before the camping trip that was like, people started. I mean, it didn't bother me too much because they would stock the diaper, but then I was like, oh well, suppose I'm not needed here in this part anymore. So,
she feels like she's not needed. So what did we decide that maybe?
Well, it came to just like a reality of God saying, maybe you don't like maybe they need you in this part every once in a while, but there's something bigger that probably.
So she's opened her heart up to something bigger. She knows how to stalk that room. She can stalk the room the rest of her life, but we've discovered that maybe God has something bigger for her to do. This right here is checking that box. You've allowed us, because she's asked for this. She literally has no, I really wished I could have videoed her when we finally dialed in over the weekend, after the forgiveness, after the conversation, after the hiking and the fishing, to be able to sit down and say, sweetie, are you okay with using to share your story, your powerful story, with groups of others to help encourage them along their path, to promote adoption rather than some of the other alternatives? And she said it was hard for her to do it because it's not her personality, but she was willing to walk into that. So in essence, this night or this morning is preparing us for Thursday evening. And we want to say, what do we want to say to these folks for allowing us to do this?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, so going back to getting involved, when I say that I can use whatever God has gifted you with, I truly mean that. You could be a handyman, you could clean, you could stock diaper rooms, you can talk to churches. Uh, there's literally endless ways that God can use you in his kingdom. And I like to say that Pregnancy Center is just giving people an opportunity. And so I just want to say thank you, introduce you to Haven Health, and that the Pregnancy Center is still going to be around 42 years later. And that's going to be our social services side. So it'll still remain the same, and we're just adding the Haven Health, and we're super excited. And you never know, Jade may be the director one day giving this same conversation. You never know, Jade may be the director one day giving this same conversation with her child. So thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Is there any questions for Amy?
I left some tour information or ways to get involved on your table back there. I also left our fancy new pins, and they write really awesome. And I have extras if they're gone. Yes, sir. I did not. I can give that to you. I have to have final numbers in tomorrow, so you have to make a quick decision if that's okay. Yes, ma'am.